Hello and welcome everyone to episode 7 of my Hidden Indie series, where I do my best to showcase fun little indie games that I felt flew under the radar. This time around, we're looking at games for Nintendo Switch, also playable on Switch 2 in particular, but some of these are also available on other platforms, whether it be PC or other consoles and what have you. But I'll include that information when I'm discussing each game individually. But before we get started, I want to ask each of you if there's any indie games that you've played recently that you felt were really fun games, but flew under the radar and didn't get a lot of attention. Maybe they don't have a lot of Steam reviews, or maybe you just felt like nobody covered them. Please let me know in the comments below so I can give them a look. And if I end up playing them and including them in a future episode, I'll make sure to give you a shout out for bringing the game to my attention. But without further ado, let's dive into the first game. Songs of Conquest is a game that I did not know about. And if you're looking at games that are hidden, if you look at the PC release for this, you'll see that it has tons of reviews, so it's clearly not hidden. But when it launched on Nintendo Switch, I hadn't even heard of it, and I bet there's a lot of you that haven't either. I streamed it about a month or so ago, and I absolutely loved it. Admittedly, I'm not the biggest strategy game fan, but what I am a big fan of are the original trilogy of Heroes of Might and Magic games that were on the PC in the 90s. Songs of Conquest is not exactly like those, but it is clearly inspired by those. This is a wonderful game. It's a turn-based strategy game that does have some differences from the PC release, so I do want to call out a few things. First of all, it does not have the online multiplayer of the PC release. It does have local, but does not have online. Then additionally, it does not have all of the available DLC. At least not yet, and at the time of recording this, it only has one DLC pack. So if you play games on Steam and this looks fun to you, you might want to check out the PC release, and honestly, you could probably get it cheaper. But if you're looking for something to play handheld, especially as a strategy game in this style, you can do much worse than this one. I had an absolute blast with what I've played of it so far. It does have a quick play option where you can play maps that are kind of generated, but then there's also campaigns that follow different factions. And you're going to move your different characters around. You have a limited amount of mobility each round. You can engage in battles. There's actually auto battle and then manual battles. The manual battles play out very similar to Heroes of Might and Magic, whereas the auto battles are pretty cool and a much faster way to get through this fairly lengthy component of the experience, because battles can take a while. So I like that there are auto battles, because that means when I'm fighting little groups of grunts that would be a waste of my time, I could just auto battle it and boom, it's done in a few seconds. You'll gain XP, there's resources you gotta collect, you're gonna build up different castles or towns that you can take over. There's a lot of those elements to it. So there's combat, resource management, and then there's kind of the RPG elements where there's different equipment, spells you can learn, skills, all different types of things like that. This is one of those games that you should absolutely check out if you're a fan of the older Heroes of Might and Magic games. Like, I can't emphasize enough just how faithful this is in terms of how it plays to those games. As far as the Switch release goes, another thing I want to mention is, from what I've been told, the Switch 1 version that you can play loads really slowly, whereas I played this on Switch 2 and it loaded very quickly. Now that's obviously a given. There are many documented instances of Switch 2 playing Switch 1 games better, but I did want to call that out and set the expectation, because you are looking at Switch 2 gameplay. And then additionally, as far as mapping a game like this goes, I think they did a really great job. Genuinely, like, a controller has very limited functionality, and they mapped it in a way that makes sense and that works. It's a little bit slower because obviously you don't have a mouse to use. Maybe in the future they will incorporate an update that has Switch 2 mouse controls. That would be pretty cool. But for right now, this is a Switch 1 game that plays way better on Switch 2. And if you're a fan of these types of games, I highly recommend this. And if you want to see more of it, I'll have a link below. My VOD is still up from my stream, and you'll see just how much fun I had, because that was the first time I played this. So definitely check out Songs of Conquest. Next up, we're going to shift gears a little bit and go to an arcade-style indie. This one is called Yosei Wars, and it is a genuine Game Boy Color game. It does not just look like a Game Boy Color game, it actually is a Game Boy Color game, so it plays authentic to that hardware. So let that set your expectation for how this plays. Now you're going to play as a Tooth Fairy, and your main goal in this is simple. You're going to collect all the teeth on each individual level, and then once you do that, you'll be able to actually take out enemies as you make your way back to the exit, which contains a fairy. You're trying to save the other Tooth Fairies. Now, if you take a hit after you gain your power-up ability by collecting all the teeth, it will still end the level, but you won't save that fairy. So I think this plays into the score aspect of it, because as a arcade style game, obviously you're trying to set high scores, but I don't know if there's alternate endings. I'm assuming it only plays into the score aspect of it, but anyways, this is one that's a lot of fun. It has really great visuals for a Game Boy Color game. It has really great music for a Game Boy Color game. Controls really good. It has plenty of variety in its level designs spread across its like 40 or so levels, and it has some really challenging boss fights. And this is genuinely an arcade style game in terms of its feel. Like, it is very difficult, especially in the later game, but what I really liked about it is it's very accessible. And if you get a game over, the only thing you really receive as punishment is that it resets your score back to 0, which to me was not a big deal. I wasn't trying to set a high score. I was playing through this more as like a single player campaign experience, and it took me about an hour to play through. So this is definitely a cheaper game at only $5 at full price. It is also available on Steam, and I'm not quite sure how you'd get this on Game Boy Color, but obviously it was a Game Boy Color game. It has a bunch of extra features that were added, like a music player, a bestiary, an art gallery, and even some of the game's prototypes before they settled in and finished developing the main game, so that's pretty cool. This is one for those of you that like a challenge, like arcade-style indies, and don't mind that it's very difficult and really simplistic in its basic premise. So check out Yosei Wars on Nintendo Switch. I had a blast with it, and I hope you do too. Next up is another arcade-style indie, but it is way different than the previous one. This is Zombies Overloaded, which is very, very clearly inspired by Smash TV. But a little bit of a disappointing aspect about this one versus the source material is that each level is only a single screen. Your main goal in this one is simply to survive as long as you can against rats and zombies and all different types of bosses you'll encounter. There are plenty of weapon pickups like assault rifles, laser guns, shotguns. There's even some other types of power-ups like speed boots and nukes to clear the screen. There's currency types with bones and gold that unlock different skins and new levels. And you can also purchase some power-ups on the fly with your bones, things like that. This is that Smash TV arcade style, but a little bit more simplistic. It has a handful of levels. Each one plays mostly the same, but at least has its own unique boss type. Then there's actually also a pacifist mode where you can't shoot. and you're just trying to rack up a high score and survive as long as you can on the screen, just moving around without shooting, that's quite the challenge. This is one for those of you that really enjoy setting high scores. This isn't like the best game ever when it comes to Smash TV types of games, but it's also one that I had a lot of fun with. I played it for like 3 or 4 hours. I unlocked all of its achievements, unlocked all of the different skins in the game, and I actually, for a while, had all of the #1 spots on the leaderboards. So I probably won't try to beat any scores that beat mine, but if you're interested in a fairly decent challenge in terms of setting high scores, take a look at the online leaderboards on the Nintendo Switch, and you'll see Nico's up there, probably in the top 3 still. I haven't checked, but this is one for those of you that like setting high scores, like just kind of mindless blasting around, moving, twin stick gameplay. It's a fun one. Give it a look if you haven't done so already. Then last, but certainly not least, is actually a game that I already covered in a themed episode of my Hidden Indie series. Back before Christmas of 2024, I did a Christmas themed episode, and I included in that episode The Legend of Santa, which is a 2D platformer that looks very similar to Nintendo's Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES, so much so that a bunch of people that watched that video said that it was a blatant ripoff, which it clearly is not. It is just inspired by Super Mario Bros. 3, and I can't blame the development team for doing that, because if I developed a 2D platformer that was 8-bit art, guess what? That's the game that I'm gonna model mine after. So why I'm including it again, and why I'm including a Christmas themed game in an episode that's launching in August of 2025, is that they actually added in a brand new chapter, and it's not paid DLC. It's a completely free update. And this is another cheap game at only $5 when it's full price, and it went from 3 chapters to now 4. So you're getting more bang for your buck. And if some of you have already played this, there's a reason to dive right back in. You can pick whichever chapter you want to play. You don't have to unlock them. So if you just wanted to play this chapter, you could just dive back in and just start right from this one. So this one being a summer themed chapter means that all of the levels have a summer theme to them. The new chapter has all of the same power-ups and gameplay mechanics as the other chapters, but it definitely ramps up the difficulty quite a bit, I think. There's a lot going on here, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's a lot going on here that's more challenging. So for those of you that breeze through the first 3 chapters, I think you'll find a hearty challenge here. It has a secret exit shortcut. It has the overworld like Super Mario Bros. 3. You can play this up to 4 players local co-op as well. Has plenty of different resolutions and screen sizes and things like that. Pixel perfect, crisp, and soft display options. There's a lot going on here, and I'm only giving it a brief overview because I already covered it. So I have a link in the description below to my Christmas themed episode if you want to see what I had to say about this game when I originally played it. But this is one that now you have even more reason to dive into, since it has even more content for the same price. I had so much fun with this, and now looking at the game as a whole, I think they really should do one more chapter, or at least selfishly I would love for them to do one more chapter, because you have 2 Christmas themed chapters. So you have the winter season covered, then you have a Halloween themed chapter, so you have the fall covered. Now you have a summer themed chapter, so that's covered. What are we missing? We're missing a spring themed chapter. How about Easter? Huh? Just throwing the idea out there. But check out The Legend of Santa. This is a great game to play around the holidays or almost any time of the year, now that it does have content from the other seasons. So that brings us to the end of this episode of Hidden Indies. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give the video a like, comment below, and let me know if you plan on picking any of these games up, or if you've already played any of them, let me know what you thought. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon to get notifications on all my uploads, because I cover a lot of different modern and retro indie games here on the channel. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.